Welcome to the Innovators, the podcast where we talk to the people building the future. In each episode, we sit down with technologists, founders, researchers, and engineers who are doing real, impactful work. They're applying technologies in ways that change how we live, work, and think. Whether it's breakthroughs in AI, climate tech, health systems, or digital infrastructure, this show is about the people turning ambitious ideas into working systems. No hype, just thoughtful conversations with the folks making it happen. Innovators, a podcast about amazing people doing amazing things. Today we have Rachel Francine. She's the CEO and co-founder of SingFit, which is a music therapy app, and it's actually pretty fascinating. Welcome, Rachel.
Nice to meet you, John. Nice to be here as well.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us what SingFit does?
Yeah, so what SingFit does is it actually is scaling therapeutic music beyond the 10,000 music therapists that practice in the US, because that's obviously a real scaling issue, because there's 120,000 occupational therapists, for example, but only 10,000 music therapists. So we use technology to extend the reach of therapeutic music.
So what does that mean? So a music therapist basically works with adults and children. Most of the work is through music, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And if you only have 10,000 of them, well, how does this expand their reach? Does it allow them to cover more clients?
So what we were able to do is some folks might remember the case of Gabriella Giffords. She was a congresswoman who received left hemisphere brain trauma from a gunshot wound. What that typically does is it typically impairs your ability to speak. But when you can't speak, you can often sing most of the time, because singing takes place in multiple parts of the brain, whereas speaking primarily takes place in the left hemisphere. So when you are a congresswoman and you get access to one of those only 10,000 music therapists as part of your rehab team. And what they will do is they will play an instrument, primarily guitar or piano, and they'll verbally prompt you the words of a song right before you need to sing them. You get somebody singing, you get a full brain workout, you activate neuroplasticity, you also optimize all the good neurochemicals, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. You work on your motor skills. All of these things happen when you're singing. So what we did is we created a digital platform that uses an app to actually mirror that practice, so that on our app there's a lyric coach track, there's a music track, and there's a lead singer track. And what that enables is it enables almost anybody through our algorithms and through our programming to facilitate a therapeutic music session. So we're in over 10,000 skilled nursing centers and senior living communities across the country, where anybody from an activities director to a CNA to a certified nursing assistant can actually facilitate these sessions. And then we've also just launched, in association with AARP, a caregiver version of this so that people can use it in their homes to care for their loved ones.
So this basically gives folks a way to speak again, right? That seems like, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No,
So speech is one thing that we do, but our primary audience right now is actually people with dementia. So what this does for dementia is it can help with focus. It can help with activating all of those parts of the brain. It can, a big part of the challenge with dementia isn't even the memory, it's the agitation, right? It's the apathy. It's the social isolation. So what you're able to do in this case is optimize all those neurochemicals. So the serotonin, the oxytocin, and the endorphins, as I mentioned. And what this can do is help reduce agitation and depression and anxiety without medications.
Interesting. So what did it take to build something like this? I mean, obviously, this requires a lot of clinical experience for one part, and also requires a lot of approvals, I would assume, to be allowed to use this in a medical environment.
Yeah. So you're exactly right. So my co-founder is a music therapist, certified music therapist. He's also my brother. And the idea for what we're doing came from my dad in the 60s, because my dad was what we called a crazy inventor. Now you would have called him a serial entrepreneur. So we always had kind of different kinds of businesses growing up. So whether it was a beanbag factory or whether it was manufacturing a brush for the tub, there was always something going on in our house. But my dad was also, earlier in his life, he was an opera student. And in the opera, there's a guy who kind of stands below this hood in the front of the stage and verbally prompts the words of the songs to the opera singers if they forget the lyric. And so my dad kind of going back and forth to his lessons would be like, I want the opera prompter in the car with me. But it was the 1960s, right? So there was, not the technological infrastructure for it. And so his product development cycle was to get married, have two kids, instill in one of them sort of the entrepreneurial technological part, and the other one got the musical part of everything. And I can carry a tune, but my brothers can pick tunes out of the air. And so unfortunately, my brother had a friend after their freshman year of college who received a traumatic brain injury. And so he was in ICU for a very long period of time. And my brother would go in and play him music.
Hmm.
And Sean, his friend, came out of the coma mouthing the words to Wish You Were Here with
Oh,
him.
wow.
And so this led to my brother becoming a music therapist. And while he was in school for music therapy, he called me up one day and he was like, that lyric prompting idea of dad's? I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's a evidence-based music therapy practice that's used for everything from, restoring speech after traumatic brain injury to helping with, neurochemical balance to helping with kids on the autism spectrum. And so it just became a part of our lives. And then when the app economy came into being, that's when we said, okay, we're going to make dad's dream come true. I sometimes refer to myself as a reverse Nepo baby because I've been
Hmm.
spending my life making my dad famous. And so, yeah, so you are correct that what we do is we take the expertise of music therapists and we put those into algorithms and obviously increasingly AI, then we do have to then get the music licenses. And you are incredibly correct that this is a big part of what we do.
Hmm.
And we have to not only get the music licenses, but we have to get what you call derivative rights licenses because we're actually changing the copyright of the song by inserting these in the prompting lyrics. And so it is not an easy task. I will be very
Hmm.
frank. It takes a lot of good lawyers, it takes a lot of time. And so there's a lot of different things that go into it. So there's, like I said, creating that sort of digitizing the knowledge of the music therapist, there's getting the licenses, and there's making sure that it's an engaging tool for people.
Is there any concern that I don't know, some put like regular, like human counselors or human music therapists out of business, out of work?
No, I mean, there's so few of them, right? So our goal is sometimes, we have a staff meeting and there'll be 5 music therapists in the room, and we're like, this is the
Hmm.
largest collection of music therapists you'll find. Our goal is to really elevate the practice of music therapy. And the idea here is that we are taking one very small slice of what a music therapist does. So getting people singing is one thing. Music therapists also use drumming for kids on the spectrum. They might use songwriting for people who have PTSD. So there's a whole variety of things that music therapists can do. We're just helping with one part and getting it out there.
So it's basically, this gives anybody the opportunity to do just one section of what the music therapists normally do. Interesting.
Mhm.
What would you recommend for folks who are trying to get into this space? I can imagine like maybe like an art therapist, for example, might want to build something like this, something similar. What do they need to be thinking about when they're building this out?
Same thing everybody in technology should be thinking about, which is who is your end user and what is the problem, right, that you're trying to solve. Because I think far too frequently people don't think about that in technology. They have an idea for something that can work technologically, or they're able to build it and you build it and they will come, right? But you want to build something that's actually going to affect people. And so when our first solution is this group solution for senior living communities and adult day programs and skilled nursing, we went to a bunch of those places and said, what is your problem, right? And they told us what their problem was. Their problem was when people are in their dementia journey, there's a point where they become very uncomfortable and they start to sense the problem and they start to socially isolate. Once you start to socially isolate, you see rapid decline. For the healthcare industry, once you see rapid decline, you see rising costs. So everybody's concerned about this problem. And we created a solution that would help with that social isolation bit and
Hmm.
that engagement bit. And so I would say that is my biggest piece of advice is find a problem you can solve, not a technology you can build.
What are some other problems that you see wide open? Like if you were to build the next version of this app or something
This
else
version of it.
along the same, yeah.
Yeah. I think that, there are so many problems in healthcare right now and in senior living and skilled nursing. And so I think additional tools to help caregivers. I was I was stunned when we didn't start the company because my mother had dementia, but she did. She passed about 6, 7 years ago. And before that, I was in the industry. I was in the industry and I could not find tools to help me engage my mother. And it's a growing segment, but it's still quite small compared to how many technology solutions are out there just for the general population, even how many tools are out there, again, for kids on the spectrum. When you It's really interesting. I was just looking into this, and there have been about 7 drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, approved for dementia in the past 120 years. And there have been hundreds of drugs for cancer approved in just the last 5 years. So there's all kinds of things that are needed within the dementia and aging space. It's just not super glamorous, right?
Is there any concern that, I don't know, somebody picks this up and, I don't know, doesn't understand how it works and misuses it, or are these apps fairly designed for folks with some experience?
No, no, you can. One of my favorite things is when we were testing this out, we had an intern and she was 19. So what does she know of Frank Sinatra or,
Hmm.
Ella Fitzgerald or whatever it was? But the way the apps are designed, they make it very easy for people to connect. So, for example, there's a technique that we rely on called the sticky ears or the reminiscence bump. And this is the fact that the music that is most neurologically embedded in your brain are the songs that you listen to between the ages of 5 and 30.
Hmm.
So the way that our algorithms work is they're pulling songs from those years first, right? So that people will engage with it. When you talk about safety and singing, yes, there are edge cases. You do not want this to be, in the ICU unit with somebody who just,
Sure.
had a heart attack, right? For the general population, singing is ubiquitous,
Hmm.
right? It's ubiquitous throughout our lives, and it's really the last thing that people with specifically dementia, can hold on to and partake in that will bring them joy and comfort. So no, there's not a
Okay.
bunch of
Yeah.
counterindications. Yeah,
I mean, it sounds a little silly when I think about it, but it's like, I mean, is again, it's technically a medical product for to a degree, a therapeutic product. So,
therapeutic
but
product. Yeah,
I mean, having somebody sing isn't going to, again, in the ICU maybe, but not in a
yeah,
chair somewhere. That sounds
yeah.
nice.
I mean, there's yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's things that we look out for, right? That a music therapist will look out for that we check for in the solutions, right? So we don't put music in the dementia solutions that are really terribly sad or that mention like a lot of memory or things in them. You don't want to agitate
Hmm.
people. So there are precautions that we take, but in general, you're
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So the app is SingFit. It's at singfit.com.
Yep.
What's next for the company?
So for us, it is really about now expanding this relationship with AARP and going into the home and really able to help caregivers care for people. And then obviously we're moving from there to people using it on their own as we expand out of dementia and into cognitive health and prevention of things like dementia, because as I mentioned, you are getting this like full brain workout, and that has been shown among other things to help with keeping your brain healthy as you age.
So should I start using this as well?
100%.
Okay. So I'll listen to. I guess it's probably Beatles is probably what I was listening to when I was a kid from my parents. All right, Rachel, thank you for this. It's been fascinating.
Thank you, John.
All right, this has been the Innovators. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you next time.